I've been thinking. I realized that there are many things people are controlling so well. For example, my printer, when I press the button, it seems to be always working. And when I write computer codes, computers execute what you say relentlessly. Also, our buildings rarely collapse. My car engine rarely fails me. That got me into thinking. Um, of course, it depends on what worldview you generally subscribe into. If you if you generally are always the kind of person who thinks that many things are controllable. For example, you wake up in the morning, you commute to your workplace, you work for 8 hours, then you come back, you press your TV, and the next day you repeat, and then at the end of the month, some money magically would be deposited into your account. If you subscribe to that kind of worldview, then I don't think the printer, the car engine would marvel you. But however, if you understand that generally the universe is very chaotic, uh, for example, you understand how vast the universe is, you understand how vast the earth is, you understand um, complexity. So, okay, for example, now let's go to the outdoor, and you close your eyes and you throw a pebble. What is the order that pebble will hit something? Chances are that it won't, because we all know that majority of the space in the world is empty space. Of course, it's not empty; it has some air, but I mean empty in the sense that you won't hit a tree, you won't hit something. So the entire organization of universe is very random, especially if you understand the particle world. Uh, um, if you subscribe to that kind of model, then the printer would definitely marvel you, because what is the odd that out of this entirely inherently chaotic world you could actually make something so consistent that keep working in the same way repetitively? That is actually very hard and rare. And this is the model I subscribe to. That's why the printer and my computer and my car engine marvel me. But actually, in day-to-day the individual decision making, most people largely have control. For example, you could decide what you want to eat, where do you want to go, what TV show you want to watch. However, I want to talk about another aspect. When you zoom out slightly, when matters involved other individuals, when things escalate to a societal, macro level, communal level, country level, oh, things become very hard to control. Millions of leaders in the past, in present, and will do the same in the future. Millions of them have tried to exert control in a macro level through policy making, social and economic policy making, and the more unfortunate one had to invoke control through violence. And when you do that, history has shown that things always go awry. One obvious example is China. In 60 years ago, I believe it invoked one child policy. It was started for a noble aim, and it seemed to have succeeded by controlling the population growth very well. However, there is one heinous consequence that happened. The consequence is today the number of male adults in China outweighs the female adults so much. The reason is the China authority, when they invoked one child policy, they didn't foresee that people would be willing to be so extreme in killing female babies, in doing everything they could to make sure that the only child they have is going to be male. That was very unpredictable. And today, in Malaysian context, some similar things that have gone awry is I could think of is the new economic policy which was introduced after the 13th May incident. The new economic policy intended to use the rich money to help the poor and to really help the so-called poor to Bumiputra, the Malays, and a large portion of the national budget have been used and donated for the so-called poor Malays economically, and it's hard to argue whether that policy has gone awry or is a success. Basically, it is very unscientific. We have no control experiment. You could argue that, oh, without it, today Malaysia would be way much worse. Or you could also argue that without it, today we will be much richer because so much money is used to help the poor instead of extend the potential of really powerful, talented individuals. Or at least there is no meritocracy. But what I want to say is, in general, this kind of societal macro policy making is so much different than your printer, your day-to-day what to eat decision. There's so much of unpredictability and it seems like so chaotic. Hence, I've laid down a dichotomy: individual level, your printer, your decision making, day-to-day decision making is highly predictable. Societal level policy making is highly chaotic. Now let's try to push this dichotomy into two extremes. First of all, the individual level. I want to miniaturize it. Let's look at the minutiae. Just now I said that every single day you could direct your body on where to go, what to eat. However, let me ask a question. If you zoom in into anatomy, can you really control your heartbeat? Can you control your amygdala whenever you have fear? Can you control your muscle growth? Except very indirectly through exercise. Can you control fat loss? Again, through exercise. But there's no means to directly control fat loss of muscle growth. And to put it more obscenely, I don't know about females. Let's talk about the males. Can you control your erection when you see a naked female body? I think it's very hard. Those are all rhetorical questions. I personally believe that all of those things are uncontrollable. You can't control your cell mutation when you get cancer. So anatomically, things are so uncontrollable, contrast to your day-to-day what to eat decision. And not only in biology, actually in physics, the physicists agree that in quantum world, things are highly unpredictable. We don't even know how tiny particles in quantum world, how do they behave, how do they react. There's simply no model to describe them. And they are very whimsical, very capricious. So then meanwhile, look at, on the other hand, just now I said societal level, they are very unpredictable. Let's try to zoom out into a macroscopic level. And odd enough, things suddenly become very predictable. That was how Newton formulated the universal gravitational law. It applies to all planets, all right? Of course, today Einstein showed that in extreme level, gravity doesn't really apply, but nevertheless, a lot of planets seem to follow the gravitational law. And of course, the famous incident, Leverrier used purely just mathematical model to actually postulate it and figure out Neptune planet exists. So that was a marvel actually. It shows that in a macroscopic level, outside of Earth, outside of society of human beings, you could actually model things. It's very predictable. So the most microscopic level, anatomy, quantum world, unpredictable. Individual level, what to eat every single day, predictable. Societal level, you can control it. Policy making always goes awry. And then macroscopic level, the planets are controllable, are able to be modeled. They follow a really predictable model. So we have this really confounding continuum: unpredictable, predictable, unpredictable, and predictable. And then I would like to segue into another topic which is kind of related. Because years ago, uh, I, I met an acquaintance. He was agonizing about the possibility of death. He was joining a motivational course called Milestone. He kept pestering me to join, and he lamented that, oh, life is so fragile. For example, now if he walks out on the street, he would be banged by a car. He would die. Of course, at that point of time, I felt that his morbidity is 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 good, but also is unrealistic. Uh, Whether it is easy to die or not, it is a very hard to arbitrate topic. And of course, we have a lot of sensationalized movies and dramas showing people how easily people die. But let's look at it. First of all, let's look at societal level. I don't think the statement that if you walk out on the street you would easily banged by a car, I don't think that is true, because a lot of drivers are quite careful. We have traffic lights, we have road traffic laws, we have emergency brake. So I don't think that is easy. And if we zoom out to macroscopic level, when I was a child, I had a lot of absurd fantasy. I worry about a meteor hitting Earth. I worry about the sun will not rise tomorrow. I worry that earthquake, all these kind of things. But if you are well versed in physics or cosmology, right, you will realize that how tiny humans actually are. Let's run a metaphor. If today your room is the universe, and what Earth and human being really is just a small tiny ant at the corner of your room. And let's think about it. What is the odds that every single day you will step on an ant? You don't really step on them because they're just so small. It's very hard to step on them. You would walk your own path. Similarly, the universe is so vast. It is very hard for a meteor to hit the Earth. It happens so rarely, 1 in a billion chance. And the sun will continue rising tomorrow until the helium gas runs out, which is a billion years later. So society level, people would press brake. Macroscopic level, meteor is very hard to hit Earth. These two things, right, seem to confirm that it is not easy to have catastrophe. Not easy. And meanwhile, let's look at the microscopic level. Again, it seems like we are not controlling our heartbeat. It seems that the heart will stop anytime. But if you really look at it carefully, right, most of the time people die because of senescence. Your heart will never stop randomly, immediately right now. And if you know anatomy, we know that human bodies are made up of billions of cells. They are all working very hard synchronously. Your mitochondria absorbing nutrients, with your nucleus working with all the activities. And can you imagine? Let's run another metaphor. Your body is made up of billions of cells. What is the odds that all billions of them malfunction at the same time? It's very rare. At most 1%, 2% of them malfunction, and you could still stand strong as a human being. Occasionally 1% malfunctions and you would get sick, but you will recover. So this microscopic level seems to also show that my acquaintance, what he said is wrong, is erroneous. It is not that easy to die. All right. So I think this entire thing is very confounding. It depends on the scale of our thinking, what you pick to be a frame of reference. You want to pick the planets, the universe as your frame of reference, or you want to pick your tiny one cell out of the billion of cells in your body, or even the quantum world as your frame of reference. Or, as most people choose, you just pick your daily life as your frame of reference. You don't try to think about the planets, you don't try to think about the quantum world. Yeah, it is just a confounding thing I want to explore. And of course, it has no answer. I'll see you in another topic next day. Okay, goodbye.